taken those times away. Oh, I guess this will be the way. There's no time for beauty, they've taken those times.
So, welcome to the Witch's Haven. My name is Anan Celeste, and this is our first series of videos. Today is my turn to talk about tarot. My relationship with tarot cards is a very old friend. I have talked about my experience with tarot in videos that I have done for Facebook and in some groups, also in other social media. But I wanted to tell you about my relationship with tarot. It was the first form of divination that I used, that I was tested for. I received my first deck. It was a gift. It was not in the original box. It was used. So it was this was a deck that was used prior. Another person used it for many, many years. So it was kind of odd because I have never been exposed to tarot up until then. I was really young. I really thought that they were just like Spanish cards, which I didn't know back then that some people actually use the Spanish cards for divination. We didn't have internet back then. Actually, we didn't even have a decent library back then in my hometown. So topics like that is just from word of mouth and people that have done it prior to. So I was told to just play with the cards. But I knew that this was not the kind of thing that I could show with my friends, that I can actually do with my friends. And there was a reason for that. I learned a while later that I remember my first reading for a friend. Back then, what I thought or what it manifested, put it to you this way, necessary prediction. And it came to be that her father passed away. And I actually told her, you really need to get reacquainted with your dad because he's not going to be with us too long. And it was really confusing for me when it actually came true, because it was the not knowing how I got to that information, and plus my relationship with my friend changed just to a degree. At least that's how I felt. And we never talked about it. It was that to a degree she thought that I had something to do with it. And to a degree I felt that way too. So I was really careful saying whatever I saw or what I deducted, because I wouldn't even talk about it in the sense of visions. I would talk about it about intuition, deduction, like doing really weird detective work, but more here than in the actual world. And I don't know if you guys can understand me when I'm saying that. I am the kind of person that when I get attached to a deck, I get attached to the deck. And actually the deck that I had that was gifted to me until I lost it in moving someplace else, it was the Rider White Tarot deck. That is something that most people, maybe not now because there's so many to choose from. But back in the day when there were not that many choices back in the 80s and the 90s. Yes. Well, in other news, I get really attached to cards, but I don't go crazy, having collections or anything like that. When I lost my second deck when we were moving, I wasn't really interested in going back to the cards until I got offered a job as a card reader in a shop. That was, again, a long time ago, at the beginning of the 2000s. So this lady gifted me. Again, it's always because of a gift, and you're gonna understand now exactly what I'm telling you about. Right now I only have two. They're completely different. That is the Spellcaster Tarot, the Melly Marquise, and illustrated by Scott Murphy. And this was like a guilty pleasure because I was told that it was really inclusive, really It was not usually the way that other tarot artists have actually depicted the work. So I really wanted to see how it was, and I found it, and this one I bought it for myself. But I didn't use it until I started doing readings for people and what have you, and yeah, and people started finding this one was a gift from my daughter. It's the Tarot of the Vampires, and I only because I said that I really wanted it because it looked, the artwork, you have no idea, this is just good masterpiece. I always loved that Gothic style, especially the Victorian Goth. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted this deck. And when I opened it up, I started noticing that the cards were, they had the Major Arcana and the Minor Arcana. But there were certain things, like name the Five of Knives instead of swords. And it was really cool. I said, this is really different. This is really different. And it was the first time that I have seen, instead of a pamphlet for the cards, for the tarot cards, a whole book. And I said, this is so cool. People that have lots of decks know that many of them actually come with a huge ass book. But yeah, me being me, it actually talks about the Major Arcana, the Minor Arcana, the relationship with the planets for each card, the letter of the alphabet in Hebrew, which it's quite amazing. The shadow aspects of light, alchemy, and the tree of life. And this is something that I haven't seen outside of certain studies for certain religions and or certain aspects of certain religions, like the Kabbalah. Outside of it, and so this is so cool. And it talks about the Sephiroth and the different parts of the tree of life, and it became a fascinating read. And I actually forgot that there were cards because the book itself, it was so informative. Not in a way that is, oh my God, there's so much to read. No, in a way that it had continuity. It had this wholesome feel to it. For example, the grails, what it means, the shadow, and instead of saying reverse, it says what's the shadow. And that is something that I used to, that I've used a lot before, because I never liked that aspect, the reverse. What the hell is that? It doesn't make any sense. But to me, it felt more like the shadow aspect of the card when it's in reverse. So, and that was one of the things that got me really excited about this system, because this is a tarot system. The analysis and the symbolism of each of the major arcana, and it actually helped me in trying to figure out these different connections for different practices into what I've always used tarot for. Trying to dissect the different aspects of myself, where I started, and instead of one whole journey, to break those journeys, like for example in childhood, from the Fool all the way to the High Priest, and then start all over again. It's my teenage years, from the Fool all the way to the High Priest, and so on and so forth, and everything in the middle. Like, I knew that I was going to make certain mistakes, and that I did make certain mistakes with each time that I started a new journey of evolution, of spiritual evolution. And to me, it was helpful in that way when I would give readings, because remember, and it is the truth, we didn't have oracle cards back then, at least not in the sense that we have them today. We could have these cards with images, and the poker cards or the Spanish cards were also used as divination tools, but not in the same way that we use oracle cards today, that are the representations of specific emotions, at least in the head of the artist. And that's another thing that I just discovered, because I have to say that oracle is a new thing to me, at least in the last 5 years. And I have known people that have done oracle cards for a very long time. But I'm going to go back to the tarot. Okay. It helped me actually integrate that part of myself that was part of the shadow. And since sometimes the light part is that, not the reverse card, but actually the card itself and what it should represent. But sometimes it could be not that you are either going through that aspect or that you're being challenged by it. But our intentions, our vision of justice or love, or I don't know, even life or even death is going to differ from person to person. But putting it this way, in a more removed perspective, we can actually see the bigger picture. And sometimes that is the biggest lesson, because it hits us where it hurts. In our pride, and the fact that even though we think we're trying to fight to have and gain power, sometimes being humble and accepting that we have a long way to go is the only advancement that we can actually make. To actually recognize that the only thing that we know is that we don't know nothing. And keeping with that state of mind is actually helping us. The biggest thing that we can take from tarot is a more basic experience of the human interaction with our own fears. And that interaction with our own fears sometimes as readers is going to translate, or it's going to proceed into the readings that we do to other people. I have felt and seen and projected and received things that I don't even understand still today. And it has helped the other person and myself realize certain aspects of the human capacity, for the human interaction with themselves and the things that they say that they love. I usually keep my cards when I am not using them, not in the box, but in this little box right here. I usually put them in these types of handkerchiefs. I wanted to say really quick, for those of you that don't have either the money or don't have it accessible, this is something that I found in my in the corner store of my house. These are just simple, plain Spanish cards, and they only cost me $2.50. It does not include the major arcana, of course, because these are not tarot cards. These are just simple playing cards. But at the same time, it gives you the opportunity to practice. It gives you the opportunity to, for example, do a quick reading. Here's the person or the situation at a hand, and what rules over it. we can all say that there's all this bunch of rules, more universal symbolism to try to decipher the major arcana, and especially for some people, the minor arcana, because Seven of Wands, Eight of Swords, there's very specific meanings, but they have become part of the collective mind. That there is a reason why many people think that they actually mean the same. That doesn't mean that when you're a more experienced reader, all of that information is going to flow and the image is going to be a more secondary to actually what you're channeling from that interaction that you're having with your client, with what the other person is doing. And knowing what the cups means with the knife or swords for people that are starting with tarot. I think that for now, you have to get acquainted with those symbols. Usually, they're very, very similar. Why? Because, like I said, it's part of the collective. The pentacle, the pentagrams, all of those symbols. And then, of course, you have now the major arcana. And that major arcana, those are very specific parts tied to very specific either emotions or aspects of the human psyche, especially the part of the shadow. Those are the things that we know that we have to deal with at some point in our life, but those are the things that we're running away from. The minor arcana is more like the details, more like the circumstances. And those circumstances sometimes are going to help you achieve other things. Sometimes they're going to prepare you when you have to achieve or let go of others. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Witch's Haven. This is your home. This is your home.
Do 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 do.